Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're talking about the Baltimore Ravens versus Pittsburgh Steelers Week 14 matchup based on analytics. Each week, I collect all of the current 2017 NFL team data in order to analyze and project potential NFL performance. And since it's a weekly collection, there's always going to be some variation between different data points. However, there's always going to be little nuggets of truth that could become bigger nuggets of truth as the season continues. So stick around as I analyze each week's matchups based on analytics. And if you're new to the channel, all terms and definitions will be in the description. So, starting with this matchup between the Ravens and the Steelers. And this matchup always has a place in my heart. I grew up watching, during the Troy Polamalu and Ray Lewis days, Ed Reed, and this was always that game to me that oh my gosh. It was just one of those games where I just remember watching it and being physically hurt. Like I would feel pain whenever I saw people get hit in this game. So it's not exactly like that anymore. It doesn't have that same feel to it, but it's still there. Like there's still some nostalgia there whenever the Ravens and the Steelers play because of just how tough and how brutal those earlier games were, back when they had all those legends back then. And getting into this game, when you look at the NFL stat basic comparison data, and basic comparison data, for those that aren't familiar with this stuff, is essentially looking at how the offense is doing, how the defense is doing, and of course how the special teams is doing. And when you look at all these factors, the Steelers are pretty much favored in this game. Not by a gigantic margin, but definitely enough to make it pretty favorable, in terms of their direction. And so let's get into some reasons why. First off, when you look at the offensive side of the football, the Steelers just have better things. They have a better offensive score percentage. Offensive score percentage just deals with the ability to put points on the board. The Steelers also have a better sack percentage, which again also kind of favors them as well. And of course, the Ravens have the better turnover ratio. So the Ravens don't typically turn the football over as much as the Steelers do, by a percentage standpoint. However, most of the offensive data favors the Steelers, especially the data that matters the most to winning football games, which is the ability to put points on the board. That by far is really important in terms of these particular metrics. And then, of course, when you get to the defensive side of the football, so now we're looking at the defense, and the defense actually breaks more so for the Ravens. The Ravens have better defensive offensive score percentage, so the Ravens basically prevent points a lot more often compared to the Steelers. The Ravens also have the better turnover ratio and the better interception ratio. So when it comes to turning the football over and preventing points, that's where the Ravens thrive. The big area where the Steelers actually have an advantage is with sacks. So the Steelers definitely have the better sack rate. They're able to sack the quarterback more often, but they don't turn the football over as much, and they typically allow more points. Not a ton, not a huge difference between both these defenses from a defensive offensive score percentage, but enough to give the Ravens the advantage. And when you add on the interceptions and turnovers, you can definitely see why the Ravens would be considered to have the better defense from a statistical standpoint. Now, when you get to special teams data, in this particular area, in terms of punt return yardage, the Ravens are favored. Kick return yardage, the Ravens are favored as well. Defensive punt return yardage, defensive kick return yardage. Defensive punt return yardage favors the Steelers. Defensive kick return yardage favors the Ravens. Field goal percentage is pretty tight between both these teams, but the Steelers are favored here. And of course, extra point percentage favors the Ravens, and punting average favors the Ravens as well. So when you look at all of this information in terms of special teams, I would say it slightly favors the Steelers because they have a slightly better field goal percentage, but it definitely could break either way. Like it's close enough to where there could be a break point for the Ravens, especially because the Ravens have a much better extra point percentage and other sort of special team stuff in general. So it's a slight advantage for the Steelers, but I definitely would say it could easily kind of break for the Ravens in this game if the Ravens do get a little bit better with their field goal percentage. So I'd say it's pretty even in that respect. But ultimately, the Steelers just have the better combination of goods. They have the better offense. The defense is not as impactful as the Ravens, per se, but it's still strong enough. And the biggest thing to remember when it comes to data and statistics and this stuff in general is the teams that have the better offense typically win more football games. That is just the facts of the matter. Like, defensive heavy football teams, you could still win with that model, and that's a model that definitely has worked in the past. I mean, the Seahawks are probably the best example of a team that was able to take that model and end up winning games. Of course, the Steelers as well at one point. However, the fact of the matter is you're more likely going to win games if you have the better offense, and that's something that the Steelers have, which is a big reason why they're favored in this game from a macro standpoint. Now, when you get to some other sort of matchups, so now we're getting to some down and distance data, split, different split success. Look at the Ravens offense versus Steelers defense when it comes to completion percentage, and the Ravens are favored here between second and third down. So those are definitely downs to kind of pay attention to. And then, of course, you look at the Steelers offense versus the Ravens defense in terms of completion percentage. And in this area, the Ravens are favored on second and third down. So both those downs, second and third, are definitely areas where I think there is going to be some success here from that perspective. And then, of course, you get to rushing downs between the Ravens offense and the Steelers defense. In this particular area, the Ravens are favored on first and third down. And again, it's important to remember this has nothing to do with yardage or explosive plays. It has to do with the ability to create first downs in these downs and distances, in these situations. That's what this has to deal with. And when you look at it from this perspective, again, the Ravens are favored on first and second down. So I do think the Ravens will have some success rushing the football against the Steelers defense. But crucial situations like third down, that's where the Steelers make their money. So that's kind of how their defense is. Their run defense is kind of set up in a way based on paper is they don't really slow teams down 100%, but they do finish. They're definitely finishing with their run D, and that's definitely an area to kind of think about in this game. Then you get to the Steelers offense versus Ravens defense when it comes to rushing downs in this particular area. The Ravens are favored on first and third down. Then you get to passing data between the Ravens offense and the Steelers defense. And in this particular area, the Steelers are favored on first, second, and third down. So again, I think the Steelers will probably have a lot of success in this game against the Ravens offense because the Ravens passing offense has just been has not been that great this year, guys. So I think ultimately the Steelers will have the last say when it comes to this. Then, of course, you get to the Steelers offense versus the Ravens defense, and this is where things get flipped a little bit. The Ravens have the advantage on first and third down. The Steelers might have a big advantage on second down. I think it'll probably be a little bit more even, kind of a more even matchup. They'll get the Steelers will have some wins. The Ravens will have some wins, but ultimately, I still think it breaks pretty well for the Steelers, especially when it comes to second down. So I think there is going to be some explosive plays in this game, despite some of the evenness. Then you get to sack rates between the Ravens offense and the Steelers defense. In this area, the Steelers are favored on first and third down. So again, both those areas, I think, pretty much favor the Steelers here in that respect. Then you get to sack rate between the Steelers offense and the Ravens defense, where the Steelers are favored on second and third down. So again, the Steelers, I think, probably won't allow a lot of sacks. The one down and distance to keep track of is first down. But I think ultimately the Steelers probably won't allow a lot of sacks in this game. Then you get to interception ratio between the Ravens offense and the Steelers defense. And in this particular area, the Steelers are favored on first and second down. So again, Steelers, I think, will have success in terms of getting picks on those particular downs and distances. And then finally, we get to the Steelers offense versus the Ravens defense when it comes to interceptions. And again, the Ravens are just very good this year when it comes to getting picks, turnovers, interceptions in particular. They've been very, very strong in that regard. Interceptions are strong in this one. And when it comes to that, I would say, when you look at this particular area, there is a very high likelihood that there could be some picks in this game. That the Ravens could get some interceptions because the Steelers have the worst third down interception rate in the NFL, and the Ravens have the best third down interception rate in the NFL. So definitely some success there. Very, very likely to happen, at least for the Ravens in terms of getting interceptions. So ultimately, how do I feel about this game? I think it's going to be a Steelers victory. Main reason why is because of how poor the Ravens offense is. This Ravens team is very strong. I did a video, a preseason, basically a preview video of the Ravens earlier in the season. And they have a lot of talent on this team. They have a lot of talent on offense in terms of offensive linemen. They have defense is probably their biggest strength, of course, obviously, as you've seen in the data. But they don't have skill positions. The quarterback is very Joe Flacco, and I'm not trying to get hate comments, but I'm just giving you the facts. Joe Flacco has never really been a amazingly efficient quarterback at any point in his career. And on top of that, the running back situation is a little wonky as well. So if they can improve the offense with the talent that they have on defense, I think that this could be a quick turnaround. So that's the one thing I'll give the Ravens fans in terms of hope is if they can just improve skill position talent and improve the quarterback position, which is a little controversial, but based on data, it doesn't look that far-fetched, I guess. I think you could see a lot of success in the future if you do those two main things. And I know it's always hard to let go of a quarterback, especially a quarterback that won a Super Bowl, but I just think when you look at the amount of data, the amount of information that we have on Flacco, the amount of information that we have on the skill position players and the running backs, I think it's time to really focus in on and fix those areas if you want to move forward and be a much more dynamic offense and actually start to really take advantage of the defense that you have. But ultimately, let me know in the comment section below, who do you believe is going to win this football game? And of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit that notification button to be reminded whenever a new video drops. And I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.